So welcome to another mini episode of Star Wars Collecting Cosmos, where I've been going through different movies of figures, really, of what 6-inch action figures have not been made, but I feel and other people feel should be made. And I know I've taken a little break from this. I think the last one I did was for Empire Strikes Back, which I got that done right around San Diego Comic-Con time, and it's been a little while since then. But I have been busy. If you haven't noticed, on the YouTube page, there are a ton of review videos for Last Jedi stuff up that seem to be pretty popular. I know last time I checked, my A-Wing review was up at over 18,000 watches, so apparently people are enjoying some of that. But I definitely wanted to get back to these mini episodes. So today, I'm going to be talking Return of the Jedi 6-inch figures that need to be made, and my guest is one of the biggest Return of the Jedi fans, Chris from Jedi Business and Toy Run. Welcome, Chris.
Well, thank you for having me, Ryan. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. If you guys don't know Chris, you should. He runs the Jedi Business website, which is like one of the best websites to go check out and see every single figure, almost every figure, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with everything. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes, but yeah, I'll try.
But practically every figure in picture form, you can take a look at what it came with, information about it, compare different figures. It is an awesome site. I definitely recommend you go check it out. It's just a great site for reference, if nothing else.
Thank you.
Oh, you bet. I love your site. So. And then also he's a co-host of Toy Run with Jake Stevens. And Toy Run has definitely taken off, having kind of filling a void we had with Galaxy of Toys when we weren't doing as much anymore, and gone far more than we ever did with Galaxy of Toys. And you guys keep it going weekly. It's pretty awesome, and the Facebook page seems to be rolling on that. So you guys have done a great job with that.
Yeah, it's fun, you know. We were just looking for an outlet, you know. Jason Luttrell, who founded the Galaxy of Toys podcasting network, kind of started the whole thing about, you know, talking about toys and everything, and you know, so we just felt like we wanted to do it more, you know, instead of once a month. We just felt like we wanted to do it weekly, you know. And we didn't know at first how things were going to go, but you know, we've been doing this for 1.5 years now, and we've been doing this weekly, and there seems to be an endless stream of news when it comes to Star Wars action figures.
Well, definitely. We seem to be getting plenty. Even though sometimes we have these dry spells, you can always find something to talk about with Star Wars action figures.
Yeah, you can do reviews, or, you know, you can talk about events that you went to, or, you know, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's get down to it. Return of the Jedi figures. There's not been a whole lot of Jedi figures put out as of this point. We've got a couple of heroes. We've got a Luke Jedi. We've technically got a Darth Vader with the Emperor's Wrath, as well as the Emperor himself, the Royal Guards, Biker Scout. That's about all I can name off the top of my head.
Okay, well, what you can do is you can go to Jedi Business, and you click on the toolbox, and then you can sort Star Wars action figures by movie. And so you do that, and then you choose Return of the Jedi. And once that page pulls up, you can filter it and just sort the figures by the 6-inch Black Series line.
Oh, sure.
And so we have a total of 13 figures in the Black Series 6-inch line for Jedi so far. But it depends on how you count, right? Because, for example, I have Jabba the Hutt in there twice, and it was kind of a re-release, right? So
yeah. So you're talking the Comic-Con version and the regular store version.
Yeah. And Salacious Crumb, you know, I do count accessory figures or characters separately if they're their own characters. So, yeah, so far I have 13 figures listed here for Jedi, which is not a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, I know they did Slave Leia early on, and Leia Bausch as well, or Bush, or whatever, however you pronounce that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But there's a lot of hero figures that haven't been done for this. It's actually impressive. And so I'm going to start with a couple heroes. The one, you know, they put out a Luke Jedi, but really, I think a lot of us, when they said they were going to put out a Luke Jedi, we were thinking of kind of the Jabba's Palace Luke Jedi, because that's what we've had since the vintage days. And it was kind of disappointing when this came out that it didn't have a vest or a cape to go over it, which would have kind of made that work for both. But I really think what we'd call a Jabba's Palace Luke Skywalker is definitely needed in this line.
Yeah, I agree. That's my actually that was my very first 3 3/4 inch figure that I ever got as a kid, And so Luke Jedi from Jabba's Palace has a special place in my heart. So if they were to do one of those, I'd be very happy.
I'd be right there with you. It's one of my favorite costumes, favorite figures. It was one of my favorite vintage figures. I'd love to see this done. And, I mean, along with this, they haven't done any of our heroes in Endor gear, which is very surprising. No Princess Leia Endor poncho, no Luke Endor poncho, no Han in Endor trench coat. And things like the Luke would be really easy. You could add a poncho to our existing figure and pretty much have that made. Plus, I mean, I know Steve Evans alluded to this at San Diego Comic-Con, that he'd love to see more stuff with the speeder bike. Obviously, Luke and Leia could be released with the 6-inch scale speeder bike, so they could reuse a mold and get that back out. I think that's something that probably will happen eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of my questions for him for this year at San Diego Comic-Con. It's like, where is Han, Luke, and Leia from the Endor scenes, right? And I could tell by his reaction that he was very well aware that they haven't gotten to those figures yet. And so, something tells me that they're kind of trying to hold back until they get to the 40th anniversary.
I kind of get that impression, too.
Yeah. I talked to Joe Ninivaji during, he's the head of global marketing for Hasbro, right? And I talked to him back in 2015 in Anaheim during Star Wars Celebration. And what I brought to his attention was the throne for Jabba, because they did Jabba as a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive in a really nicely done, box, but there wasn't a real throne included.
Right, it was just kind of cardboard.
Yeah. And so I did ask him about it, and his answer was, well, we're looking at probably the 40th anniversary. And it was kind of a shock for me because that was in 2015, so I'm thinking, holy cow, we're about 8 years away from that anniversary. That means that we have to potentially wait another 8 years to get a throne, right?
Yeah.
But what that told me, though, was, because remember, that was 2015, and the Black Series 6-inch line started in 2013,
yeah.
Right? And so that kind of told me, though, that, Hasbro was serious about the new scale, the 6-inch scale, and they were totally committed to it in the long term. So that's kind of what that told me back then. So, but anyways, to get back to your point, I do think that they're waiting for, a special occasion like the 40th anniversary,
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
unfortunately, it takes a while for us to get there, but, yeah.
I know, us as collectors, we want everything now. Don't want to wait, but...
Yeah, right.
Along with, kind of the main characters, there's, of course, Leia in the Endor dress that she wears on Ewok Village. This is generally skipped over in many things. Like, we've never seen a 12-inch version of this in anything. I think, technically now with the Forces of Destiny, there is one that's kind of 12-inch scale. But the 3 3/4 inch, we didn't get very many of these. It never updated it with a better sculpt from what they previously did with the Princess Leia packs, and they came out with just kind of a regular edition at the same time. Mm-hmm. But this is one I'd like to see, as well as, Lando didn't get any love for the longest time. We just got a Lando from Empire Strikes Back, but of course there's Lando in disguise at Jabba's palace, as well as a General Lando Calrissian from the Battle of Endor, both of which I would love to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And as far as the Leia goes, I actually just opened up the Forces of Destiny version with my daughter. And the first thing she did is she totally undressed Leia, and she right away put on the Ewok dress. You know? And so for her, that was kind of, she liked that better. And so, even though they haven't really done a whole lot of those figures in the past, I think that now with the resurgence of, the lack of female characters for that matter, they might take another look at that, and maybe we get lucky and actually end up getting this kind of, this version of Leia.
That'd be nice to see. I think they, in the cartoon for Force of Destiny, they actually showed her getting this dress. Am I right?
Yeah, towards the end, right? It was a gift from the Ewoks to her for kind of helping them or being there, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So actually, I'd like to include one more main character in a way, and that's Chewbacca. He definitely has a different I don't know what you want to call it, haircut in Return of the Jedi. And while this would basically be a head swap for the most part, they could take the existing Chewbacca mold and put a new head on it, which I believe they did for Force Awakens pretty much. But I actually like Chewie's hair in Return of the Jedi, so I wouldn't mind seeing a figure with this version done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his hair is a little more fluffy, I think, right? When I think about Chewbacca and Jedi, I always have that Kenner vintage card back in my head where he's photographed against, the bushes or the trees in the background. And I always felt like that his hair was more fluffy in that picture than in other shots. But yeah, I would love to see that, and of course they could do, maybe an injured Chewie, because he does get injured on the skiff.
On the skiff, yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely, they could definitely do two different versions of him.
Mm-hmm. Next, I'll just move to some Jabba's Palace people that I think should be done. I mean, Bib Fortuna seems obvious. With the Jabba's Palace stuff, I mean, that Comic-Con diorama, if you want to call it that, it begs for a Bib Fortuna in there, as well as at least a couple of Gamorrean guards, I would think.
Oh, man, Gamorrean guard would be great. I mean, especially if they take the 3 3/4 inch figure, which, by the way, is my favorite.
Oh, that's one of the best, yeah.
Yeah. If they take that and just upscale it and see how this turns out, I mean, the soft goods on that figure, and, he came with 3 different weapons, so you can basically army build this one by just buying the same one again and again, and have it look differently on your shelf. If they could pull something like that off, I mean, man, that would be awesome.
Definitely. And I kind of go through this. I look at what's come and what they've said. Like, I don't want every single character like we've got in the 3 3/4 to be done, but I kind of look for those major characters. Obviously the heroes, the main villains, and then like kind of standout characters, if you will. And one of those I also added in there was Weequay on the skiff. I think part of this is just a little vintage love for the figure, and it's a unique design. I mean, it's a slippery slope. You get into Jabba's Palace aliens or Cantina aliens, and there's so many more that you want to go to, and I just kind of think about those standouts that kind of did something in the movie, if you will, like Reese or Squidhead really did nothing in the movie, and I don't see a point for them. The Weequay actually, pushed Luke off the plank there, so I think he kind of deserves something.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see a whole lot of Jabba Palace characters, quite honestly, because I think that once they've covered the main characters, they at some point will have to dive into those side characters more and more. And to me, droids and alien characters have always made collecting the figures much more interesting, and I mean, come on, Jabba's Palace, there are so many cool designs in there. I mean, a 6-inch Yuck face, that'd be kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
But then the question is, though, right? But the question then is, to me, I would like to see more than just one, right? So if they were going to tackle that, I would love to see a 3-pack or a 4-pack. Because, from a collector's point of view, if I get one figure, let's say I get the Weequay that you just mentioned, he would look a little out of place if I don't have any other skiff cards, right? So I would love to see a multi-pack of those, but because you just brought up the Weequay, I think the skiff itself would make a great vehicle in a 6-inch line, and I think it's it would be big, but I think it's not too big to pull off. I think a skiff can hold 8, maybe 10 figures.
You could probably fit that in on the same assortment with like Rey's speeder and Luke's land speeder, because while it's big and long, it doesn't use. I mean, really, it's mostly kind of a flat platform in many ways, so it doesn't use that much plastic.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that would be a great display, getting the skiff and then having a Weequay or maybe 2 or 3 skiff guards to go with that. I mean, that would be just fantastic, I think.
And, something actually to go along with that skiff, you'd need a new Han Solo figure for him out of the carbonite. Obviously, if they gave us a Han Endor, you could probably take off the trench coat and take off the vest, and you'd have this figure. Although you'd have to take off the belt, too, I guess. But kind of that Han out of carbonite, and maybe give them an opportunity to finally release the carbonite block to general sale, because this was only available previously for the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, I was just thinking about them doing creatures in this assortment. So the Rancor, of course, comes to mind.
Oh, my gosh.
It would be big, but, I don't think it would be bigger than the TIE Fighter, right?
True. It might use a lot more plastic than the TIE Fighter, though.
Yeah. I mean, the sculpting would probably be interesting to see with all the wrinkles and all the warts that this thing has and all the teeth and all that. But, I still think that could be potentially something that they could pull off. I don't think that's out of their reach, really, when it comes to, financial decisions.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do I know? I don't know what their budget is,
Yeah. I think it really depends on, how hot Star Wars stuff remains in the future, if that was something that they'd want to do. But, I mean, if something like the TIE Fighter works, I could see maybe something. At the same time, we're looking like they'd put out the TIE Fighter, and then they kind of scaled back with, like, the Land Speeder and Ray Speeder. Kind of about a third of the original price point of that TIE Fighter. So maybe they're trying to do something a little different, a little smaller. But we'll see. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
As well as just kind of our main heroes, I think Admiral Akbar would be needed. They've just announced they're doing a Force Awakens Admiral Akbar, or is it a Last Jedi Admiral Akbar? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think there is a lot of costume changes when it comes to that character.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know yet what he really looks like. I think he shows up in the background during the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
But, you can't really make out what he looks like.
But I'd like to see a Return of the Jedi one in his white and tan uniform, which is definitely different from what we saw in Force Awakens. He's kind of an iconic character for Return of the Jedi, so I think he's needed.
Yeah, and, I mean, I could see a 2-pack. You do the Return of the Jedi Admiral Akbar, and then you also do a regular Mon Calamari officer that was on the Home One with him.
Yeah.
And, you include 2 or 3 different helmets or something, and then, I don't know, you can just... then you would have to buy Akbar multiple times. Yeah, that wouldn't work. Yeah, no, just a regular officer, Mon Calamari officer, so he doesn't just stand on the shelf by himself,
Or maybe General Madine, who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of to close out for what I was looking at, I think of Ewoks. I'm a big Ewok fan. Obviously, I'm part of the Ewok Builders Club. And, I mean, Wicket is needed, but if you put on Ewok and you put one Ewok in a $20 box, I don't think that's going to fly. I think you'd have to have multiple, a Wicket and Logray or something like that. But I tried to think of, which Ewok should be made, and it's, I ended up putting 5 in here. So I have Wicket, obviously. He's kind of the main Ewok we get to know in the movie. Logray, because he's a medicine man. He has kind of a part he plays. Paplu, he steals a speeder bike. Obviously, this is something they could pack in with the speeder bike again or something like that. Chief Chirpa, he's supposed to be the head of the tribe, and Tebow, just because he has such a unique headdress. I kind of looked at those 5. You could obviously go much further with Ewoks if you really wanted to, but that's the ones I was like, how about these 5 to start with?
Yeah, I mean, once they get to the Ewoks, those would probably be the obvious choices, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to look at, because Hasbro likes to do battle scenes, right? So they like to pack, in the 3 3/4 inch line, they have the mission series right now where you have a good guy fighting a bad guy, right? So you have Rey and Jedi training, but you also get the Praetorian Guard, or you have Han Solo with Boba Fett paired.
Right.
So they always kind of look at, good versus evil. And, when it comes to the Battle of Endor, on the planet, I would think that, we would need the AT-ST driver, right?
Yeah, that'd be good to add in there.
I would love to see that. Maybe a generic, Imperial officer with the black uniform. I would love to see that as well. I think there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, they really haven't tackled the Battle of Endor at all yet,
no, none.
right? Except for the well, they did do the
speeder
biker
bike.
scout with
Yeah.
the speeder bike, yeah.
And they could re-release that biker scout in a single box by itself.
Yeah, paint him up a little, give him a dirty boots or something, or add some scratches to the speeder bike, make it a little different from what they've done before. I'd love to see that.
I have one final I just thought of. I wanted to throw him in there. We've had an R2-D2 released, but an R2-D2 and you add the serving tray on it, I think that would be worth re-releasing. Maybe it doesn't need every accessory it came with before, but the serving tray is kind of iconic with R2-D2 as well. And to give it a chance to put that R2 out again, so I could see that maybe working too.
Yeah, for R2, or when it comes to astromech droids, I hope that at some point they realize, and I know they know this, because they've been told many times before, but the astromech droids in the 6-inch line, they're underscaled.
Yeah.
Not just by a little bit, by quite a bit actually. And you probably noticed this because you were building the Bandai model kits, right? So you've seen the differences as well. Yeah. So I'd love to see if they ever do another astromech droid. I really hope that they understand that they need to step it up in this regards and fix what they've done before in terms of scale. As for the R2 that you mentioned, I think the one that we have right now is almost a version where they try to put everything that they possibly can into the droid, including Luke's lightsaber.
Right.
So I could see them re-releasing it with the serving tray, and they would have the lightsaber already in the droid as well. So they, it would be even more Return of Jedi,
sure,
so to speak. But again, I hope that if they ever do that and get to this, that they'll, start from scratch and redo the astromechs.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. We've seen over the years in 3 3/4, they've had some decent astromech sculpts, but then we'll see them redo it and redo and reuse, quite honestly. But, Chris, did you have anything that you think should be put in there that I didn't mention in there?
Well, I've been thinking about vehicles early on, right? We talked about the skiff, and I've been trying to figure out, because the Rancor would obviously be fairly big. So I've been trying to figure out how big an AT-ST would be, right? In the 6-inch line.
Yeah.
I think it would be tremendous. I mean, having a whole bunch of stormtroopers and biker scouts, and then you have one really nice, cool centerpiece with the AT-ST on your display. I think it would look really, really good,
in all honesty, as far as amount of tooling needed and plastic needed, I don't think it's too much more than, say, the TIE Fighter. You think of the TIE Fighter, it's really just that ball cockpit and then, 2 giant wings that are very thin. And with the Scout Walker, you get the just the head and then just 2 long, spindly legs. Obviously, you're going to have more articulation in the legs than you would in wings of a TIE Fighter. But in some aspects, they're similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that, sure.
So it's a possibility, I would think. I'm still surprised I haven't reused that speeder bike to death, but...
Well, yeah, I'm not quite sure if the sales numbers were there, right? Because if you remember, that thing went on clearance at Hasbro Toy Shop for $10, and then even then it sat around for a while.
Yeah.
So that didn't sell well. But you know what, though? It might have been just the wrong time to release it, because at that point, the line was still young.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot more people have caught on now to the 6-inch line. And I think it might be worth to just re-release this one, and give it another shot. Because I think that... the demand now is bigger than what it was before for this stuff.
Oh, we've been seeing that more and more with these 6-inch line. Obviously, it's caught fire. The last few times we've had these Force Friday or midnight launches, it seems like a lot of people who are waiting in line are waiting for 6-inch figures. I ended up talking to a couple of teenagers the other night for Force Friday too, and they were really big into the Black Series. And they're like, man, I wish I could get the Anakin Skywalker. I was like, oh, guys, that was everywhere and easy to get. They said, yeah, I just wasn't into buying them at the time. And it's it's weird for those of us who do this, who've been doing this for years and years and years, to hear that. But it's yeah, I mean, that first wave with the Luke and the R2 and Darth Maul and all that, it was easy to get just about everywhere. The Maul was a little harder, but still, now you see the prices of some of those on the secondary market, and it's crazy because this line is just skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the first 4, Luke X-Wing, R2, I think the Sand Trooper, and Maul. I mean, they were peg warming everywhere I went.
Oh yeah, and
they
even
didn't
next with the
sell
Han
well.
Solo was that peg warmed, and then they put out that Cantina set at Toys R Us. They're like, why did you do this? We've got this, and Greedo. They were everywhere, and yet the 40th anniversary comes with Han Solo. It's one of the most popular characters, and because people wanted the character, and because it was only packed one to a box. But still, it was people wanted this. And it's but it was peg warming everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's different demand now for this stuff.
Definitely.
But, in terms of other figures, what I'd like to see, I want to point out that after seeing the Last Jedi Snoke with Throne, which is the GameStop exclusive, I really would love to see a Throne for Palpatine in Jedi. to have a display like that. You have your guard set up right next to him and then have him sit in the middle. I'd love that. And I also always loved the B-Wing design, not the B-Wing vehicle design. Well, I like that too. But the pilot outfit, the B-Wing pilot outfit, and the A-Wing pilot outfit, always like those. And I also think that, if they get the sculpt right on those, I mean, they could just do different heads down the road at some point, Yeah,
do like an Alliance pilot pack or something, like the way they've done some of the Imperial and First Order troopers.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. That'd be an interesting move.
Yeah, but of course, once they have to get the main cast right first, right?
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, did you have anything more to add then, Chris?
Yeah, I know. I can talk about this stuff forever. So. No, I'm good for now.
Yeah, I always felt like when I was thinking about the Sixth Sense, I really need to kind of have some parameters in my head of just kind of the highlights of the movie, because I mean, we look at our collections of 3 3/4 inch figures, and there's hundreds of Return of the Jedi figures, and to kind of pare that down for 6 inch, because I don't know about you, I don't want hundreds of these figures for every movie in 6 inch form. I got them in 3 3/4 inch film. I like to have the highlights rather than every single figure, and that seems to be the way Hasbro's going. Although obviously in the new movies we get a little bit more. Although Rogue One kind of scaled back to that, the highlights of that. I mean, we didn't even get Saw Gerrera in there, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bodhi Rook is still missing, and Galen Erso is still missing in that line. So, yeah, there's definitely some characters they have to get to. But, for me, the alien characters, for the 3 3/4 inch line and the droids as well, that's always been special to me. So I'd love to see that. And I think that the 6 inch line, once it matures a little more, maybe give it another 4 or 5 years, and they really have covered the prequels well with battle droids and, the main characters from those movies. Once they start diving into some of those background characters, I think that line is going to get more and more interesting for me personally.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing some of that. I just hope they don't know too much,
Yeah. I was just thinking about Ethan Mon, I just read a Hasbro interview from the Star Wars Insider. I think they released that in the mid-2000s, something 2005, 2006, I think. And they were talking about Ethan Mon and how that figure came about, and they pointed out that it was kind of a mistake. They weren't really planning on doing it, but somebody proposed it in like a meeting or something, and then somebody just started working on it and just kind of snowballed, and just somehow it happened, but it wasn't really supposed to happen.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's such an awesome figure, too.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Jabba Palace citizens, right? Yeah. So, interesting to see that in 6 inch form,
That would be a deluxe figure for sure of some sort, but that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I thank you for joining me today, Chris. Obviously, people can always catch you on Toy Run, which seems to release almost every Friday. I know you miss. Since you started, I think you've missed only 2 Fridays. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. One Friday, I had a broken hard drive, so
that'll do it.
That was the week that we had Matt Fox scheduled. I remember that from This Week in Star Wars, but that didn't happen then. And I think one week we took off during Christmas break or something.
I was just thinking of this last week. You skipped because it was Force Friday, and everybody's out buying toys. So.
Yeah, but we have an episode coming out on Monday, so tomorrow morning, actually.
So you're not really missing it. You just delayed it a couple days.
That makes sense. Little late, yeah. So, but people can catch me on Jedi Business,
Absolutely.
Of course. And, that's pretty much where you can find me. Jedi Business or the Facebook page, Jedi Business. And, of course, like you mentioned, Toy Run. We have a Facebook group. It's a closed group. We try to keep this, bit of a family environment. We like to have this being more active than just a lot of people and nobody really knowing what's happening there.
Yeah.
So make sure you join the closed group there, and all you have to do is just answer the question who the hosts are, which is Chris B and Jake Stevens, and then we'll add you to the community, and it's very lively. It's very active.
Definitely.
People post their pictures of toy runs all the time, and it's a fun place, I think. So hope your listeners join us there.
That'd be great. And as always, anybody who is watching this, if you see or hear of something that we missed, you're like, oh, they totally need to make this figure for Return of the Jedi or whatever, put it in the comments below, and I will mention on the next episode and say maybe why I didn't want to include it, or maybe I was stupid and completely missed that one. But I always welcome input from anybody watching these on YouTube. Bring it in if you like it. And I've been upcoming. I'm planning on the next week. I'm going to do a Force Awakens show about the 6-inch figures for Force Awakens I think need to be made. I'll be honest, I only have 2 right now I think that should be made. So if you think there needs to be more, give me that input, because I'd love to have that in there, and I'll add it in. Thank you once again, Chris, for joining us. As he said, listen to him on Toy Run, catch him on Jedi Business. Until next time, this is Ryan for Star Wars Collecting Cosmos, and check out my reviews, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
Oh, tentu tak.